The Center for Constitutional Governance conducted a comprehensive review of Uganda's NGO laws, namely the NGO Policy 2010 and the NGO Act Cap 109, to identify key legal and constitutional issues affecting the NGO sector. The review engaged NGO stakeholders across the country through focus group discussions and policy analysis. Here are the key findings. The review of the NGO Policy 2010 identified the following critical issues: lack of clarity on what qualifies as a faith-based organization, creating confusion on which entities the policy should regulate. The policy limits community-based organizations to operating only at sub-county level and below, restricting their ability to scale their work. Categorizing NGOs as indigenous, foreign, regional, and international is potentially discriminatory and may violate the Constitution. Too many reporting entities are imposed on NGOs, making compliance burdensome and limiting their free operation. The definition of NGOs as purely voluntary associations excludes emerging models such as social enterprises. CBOs lack representation in the district and sub-county NGO monitoring committees. There are no clear guidelines on the selection and tenure of NGO representatives on DNMCs and SNMCs, risking abuse of the process. Absence of clear guidelines and updated standards, including risk-based and self-regulation, as recommended by the Financial Action Task Force. The review of the NGO Act revealed similar concerns, including the Act continues the discriminatory categorization of NGOs into indigenous, foreign, regional, and international. CBOs are still limited to sub-county operations and lack legal personality, making it hard for them to own property, employ staff, or operate effectively. The Act creates too many repetitive and burdensome reporting obligations. DNMCs and SNMCs lack guidelines for their conduct and are underfunded, rendering them largely ineffective in many districts. The process of choosing NGO representatives on DNMCs and SNMCs remains unclear, hindering inclusive participation. Provision for NGO self-regulation are ineffective and not aligned with FAT standards. These findings underscore the urgent need for reforms that create an enabling environment for NGOs, respect for constitutional principles, and the improved efficiency and fairness of regulation. Call to action. All stakeholders should engage in the ongoing reform process. The government has also conducted its own regulatory impact assessment of the NGO laws and proposed significant amendments, including creation of an NGO basket fund to pool donor and government funds for allocation by governments, creation of an NGO apex body mandated to determine the NGO sector's agenda, requirement for cabinet approval before NGOs can receive funds from bilateral donors outside the basket fund. These proposals have far-reaching implications for the independence and operations of NGOs in Uganda. That's why it's critical for all NGOs, CBOs, and stakeholders to meaningfully engage in the consultation processes at every stage and ensure that the reforms protect the sector's integrity and promote civic space. Let's work together to advocate for a fair, enabling, and constitutional legal framework for NGOs in Uganda. Your voice matters. Be part of the consultative process. This message is brought to you by Center for Constitutional Governance with support from GIZ.